You're taking a live look over at the Israel-Lebanon border as the U.S. Special Envoy Amos Hochstein visiting the Lebanese capital of Beirut today, warning the window is closing for a ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas. Hochstein saying he spoke with Lebanon's parliament speaker and they agree, quote, there is no more time to waste and there's no more valid excuses from any party for any further delay, and a deal, quote, would prevent an outbreak of a wider war. We know that talks are expected to resume tomorrow. However, Hamas has indicated that it will not send a representative for the final round of negotiations, which would obviously make it difficult for a deal to actually be reached. Iran has also claimed that it will wait to attack Israel in case a ceasefire deal is reached, but again, Hamas not sending a representative. Do want to talk more about all of this and the latest developments here, so let's bring in Mark Chandler. He is a friend of the show here, Director of Government Relations and Professor of Practice at Coastal Carolina University, also a former senior defense intelligence official. Thank you so much, Mark, as always, for taking the time to be here with us.
You're welcome, Josh. Good morning. I'm glad I can make it.
Good morning. Well, first off, I do want to talk about that whole situation there, because you have Hamas saying that they are not going to send a representative there for the peace talks. But then you also have Iran saying that they're going to wait to see if a ceasefire happens. What do you make of all of that? Because it almost sounds like it would be impossible for a ceasefire deal to be reached if Hamas isn't actually sending anyone.
Well, I think that last part of your question there, Josh, is absolutely true. If Hamas doesn't send anybody, there's really not going to be a negotiation because the other side won't be there, if you will. I think Iran using that excuse of not attacking if there is a ceasefire deal is just another delay tactic in Iran's measure. But what you're seeing here is the complexity of Middle Eastern relations between Arabs. You mix Sunni and Shia Islam inside of that enigma that you have created there, and a lot of confusion of really how to approach solving this problem that Hamas originally started back in October. So the way forward is very cloudy. And even today, Hamas reiterated in Lebanon with their representatives in Lebanon, they will not attend the talks beginning tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of questions here about how exactly that's going to play out. And I do want to ask you, because we know that Hamas has actually admitted to firing rockets at Tel Aviv. So my question for you, can Israel's aerial defense system, the Iron Dome there, really handle those rockets? Or could the rockets actually strike Tel Aviv? And then even further, what would be the implications of that? Because we're talking about rockets hitting a major city there in Israel.
Well, actually, the rockets that Hamas fired were called M90 rockets. They don't have a large warhead, but if you hit a building, you land on people, you're going to create damage or casualties. So that is an aspect of it. They were at the outer range of those M90 rockets to reach Tel Aviv from Gaza, but they could reach Tel Aviv. Now, the Iron Dome is just one aspect of the Israeli air defense system, and it can handle the number of rockets that would likely come from Hamas. Hamas has actually fired several times in the last couple of weeks. The Iron Dome's taken them, and then there's been failures. As a matter of fact, one of these rockets crashed splashed in the Mediterranean, and the other kind of failed after launch out there. So the Iron Dome is set up to defend against that. But when you look at an overall large-scale rocket attack like we had back in April from Iran, rockets and missiles and UAVs, that's where it gets complicated because you have to deal with the U.S. Patriot system, a longer-range system, the Israeli Arrow and David Sling issue, and then the Iron Dome for closer in. They can all work together to try to take out targets and missiles coming in from longer ranges, but they can be overwhelmed. One thing I want to point out that's a little disconcerting is the use of UAVs by Lebanese Hezbollah. They've increased those, so I think there's a learning curve where Hezbollah has actually realized, along with Iran, that Israel's one weakness is the defense against UAVs, attack UAVs, explosive laden UAVs. So to answer your question directly, yes, they can defend against it, but they can easily be saturated if we see a massive, large-scale rocket and missile attack.
And I do want to pop this up for you right here. This is from Jonathan Kornreikis, who actually used to be a representative there, a spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces. He says that Hezbollah has enough Iranian and self-manufactured rockets and missiles to fire 4,500 rockets per day at Israeli cities. If they do, the Israeli response will have to be absolutely devastating. I hope we don't get there. So again, that is a statement here that is just coming in from Jonathan Kornreikis, so I did want to pop that up for you here. Now, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant saying that Israel is closely tracking its enemies as they are preparing for this attack from Iran and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is, of course, a proxy of Iran. So is it possible that the two really do come together and actually have an attack that happens where they're both involved?
Yeah, it absolutely is possible. And that's one of the worst case courses of action that I believe Israeli defense is preparing for. So Gallant's statement, if I can just back up just a second, that's rooted in excellent intelligence work. Right now, the intelligence apparatus of Israel and the United States actually are working overtime to anticipate and warn against an Iranian and Hezbollah attack, not to mention Houthis as well as Iranian-backed Shia militia in Syria and Iraq. So that is what Gallant is talking about, preparing for that attack and giving them enough warning. If Hezbollah were to launch, and that was an excellent quote you just put up there, because Hezbollah has over 100,000 rockets. If they were to launch that simultaneous with Iran, then you could see that overwhelming saturation of the Israeli air defense. And I think Israel's going to have to immediately go on the offensive while fighting a defensive campaign and go attack the Hezbollah launch sites and command and control facilities. So that is a bad course of action for Israel should they both launch at the same time.
And I do want to put up another post that is coming in here. Take a look at your screen. This is from the Israel War Room, and they say, following the siren that sounded at about 10:54 in northern Israel, several projectiles were identified crossing from Lebanon, which fell in an open area. No injuries reported. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people don't necessarily realize that Hezbollah has been launching these projectiles, rockets, missiles over at northern Israel really since the day after October 7th.
Yeah, absolutely, Josh. This is something that hasn't stopped. It's been tit for tat for the entire time since the start of the Hamas war. When Hamas invaded, Hezbollah's been attacking. You know, they would go up to 70 projectiles a day, including rockets and UAVs. So this is something that's going to be consistent, and the attacks are just going to continue. This is nowhere near the capability that Hezbollah could reach should they decide to launch an all-out attack.
And I do want to pull up this shot once again. This is the Israel-Lebanon border. You can see it off to the left-hand side of your screen. Now, one more question here before I let you go. Mohammed Deif, we know that the killing of him, the assassination, was a big deal for the IDF. And then eventually you saw the head of Hamas actually assassinated, as well as the second in command of Hezbollah. We did learn from Hamas fighters, there are reports circulating from U.S. officials there and Israeli officials, that it was actually a Hamas fighter who gave away Mohammed's location. Does that indicate to you that some of those Hamas fighters are actually turning against the terror group altogether?
Well, what I see in this reporting, Josh, is that this is old school intelligence work. You know, every intelligence agency in the world tries to go in there in their opposition, in their adversaries, and try to find somebody that they can, as we say in intelligence, turn against them, start to feed them information. So this is plausible. You have to realize that, one, Hamas is not popular overall with the Palestinian population. You know, Hamas started this war. Hamas has created the situation where you've seen all this destruction take place. And so they don't have the greatest popularity. So it's natural that you would find people within the Hamas organization that want to stop the fighting and want to facilitate Israel coming out and being able to take actions that can actually cease the fighting in a positive manner. Not maybe in Israel's favor, but to stop the fighting. So yeah, this is very plausible. You could see this action. There's likely some others that are feeding Israeli information. They're excellent at this. And so when you look at that, that's possibility. One thing I want to throw out, This could be great disinformation. You're starting to see, and I think you're seeing it with what's happening in the inability to come up with a position for the negotiations, dissension within Hamas, dissension within the hierarchy. Sinwar was appointed leader of Hamas. And so you now have to look at how can they communicate. If I don't trust everyone within there, within my organization, that they're not feeding the information to my enemy, then you're going to start to see that dissension take place and grow and fester.
All right, Mark Chandler there, former senior defense intelligence official, also over at Coastal Carolina University. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and break it all down. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
Well, Josh, just a couple of things, if I may. You know, people are wondering when Iran is going to attack. They waited 13 days in April to do their counterattack. We're just now past that 13 days. So I think why they haven't attacked, well, I think you see a lot of buildup. They're doing some significant planning out there, both defensive and offensive. They know Israel will counterattack, so they want to set up their defenses before they attack. They want to be successful. They were not successful launching 300 plus munitions against Israel in April. So they want to ensure some sort of success this time. But when you drag this out, the one thing the Israeli population, they know an attack is coming. They are waiting. It's kind of a psychological torture, psychological pressure on the Israeli citizens and the government for when this might happen. I believe they're going to attack, but the timing is purely set by Iran in this case. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It could be tonight. It could be a week from today when Iran unleashes what they hope to be a successful attack.
All right, Mark, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and break it all down.
You're welcome, Josh. Good luck covering it. It's very complicated.
I'm sure I'll have you back very soon to help break it down. Thanks again.
You're welcome.